Hello everyone, welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host Callum Dunk and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Today's episode will probably go a little bit longer than usual after the retention and releases for the 10 IPL teams ahead of the auction to be held in Abu Dhabi on the 16th of December. We'll go through all 10 teams. We'll talk about the surprises in terms of the releases, who teams could be looking to target in the auction. It's going to be a really exciting tournament, as the IPL always is. This year, the auction is going to be a lot smaller. It's going to be a mini auction, but that does mean that players can go for some really large prices. And there were some players who weren't involved with the mega auction last year that I think will be able to collect handsomely when December 16 comes around. So if I'm looking at some of the overall big moves, the first one is Jadeja going from CSK, long time at CSK, heading back to the Rajasthan Royals where he began his IPL career, where Shane Warne famously named him the rock star. As part of that trade, Sam Curran also heads from CSK to the Rajasthan Royals, and Sanju Samson goes to Chennai Super Kings. There's going to be a lot of change and evolution in the Chennai team, and we're sort of going to look at that throughout this episode. If I look at some of the other big surprises, Andre Russell getting released from KKR. Been at KKR for a long time, held through a couple of mega auctions, plays with Kolkata franchise all around the world in the CPL, the ILT20. He's been able to, and in America as well, so been a long time associated. So we don't know whether that was a player requested to be released back into the auction to potentially fetch a higher price, or whether KKR potentially tapped him on the shoulder and looking to do a few things differently. KKR will be the most interesting team at the auction with a 64.3 crore purse remaining. And Chennai as well will be the other big player with over 40 crores available for them to use. Ravi Bishnoi released from the Lucknow Super Giants. I know he didn't have a great season in 2025, but that one was a bit of a surprise for me. If I flip over the page with my notes, Glenn Maxwell being released from Punjab, I'm not surprised. I still think that Maxwell was bought relatively cheap in the scheme of things at 4.2 crore. For someone of his talent, his caliber, I know he has struggled at various points in the IPL for many franchises, and Punjab probably overall hasn't seen the best of Glenn Maxwell. Ricky Ponting came out and said that he wasn't going to be part of the first choice 11. So it looks like they're going to give more opportunities to Mitch Owen, who has impressed since coming into the white ball teams for Australia. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So now let's go ahead and look at all the teams in alphabetical order, starting with the Chennai Super Kings. So obviously the two big players released were Ravindra Jadeja and Sam Curran as part of the Sanju Samson trade. Devon Conway was also probably a surprise. He's been pretty consistent for them at the top of the order. Whether they think maybe he's too expensive and they might be able to buy him back at a cheaper price, I'm not sure what the thinking behind there was. Rachin Ravindra was also released, and Pati Rana was, I suppose, the big surprise. Previously on about 13 crore, and I know he's been a little bit inconsistent, but when Pati Rana has been at his best, he's been one of the most deadly bowlers in the IPL. Apparently, he hasn't been going that well for Sri Lanka. I haven't been following Sri Lankan cricket too closely of late, but whether they think they might be able to buy him back at the auction cheaper, who knows? But overseas fast bowlers are very highly sought after, so they obviously run the risk of him going to another team at a much larger price. Looks like they're putting a lot of faith in Noor Ahmed and Nathan Ellis. I'm fully expecting them to get another backup seamer in overseas quick in the auction, someone very cheaply. It's a little bit of a surprise that they've traded out Jadeja and Sam Curran for Sanju Samson, but I think they're seeing Sanju Samson as the most logical replacement for MS Dhoni when he decides to hang up the gloves. If we are looking at the Delhi Capitals now. They've traded in Ferreira from the Rajasthan Royals for about 1 crore. I think that's a pretty solid purchase. Faf du Plessis was also released along with Jake Fraser McGurk. I'm not surprised that Fraser McGurk was released. He had a pretty poor season in 2025 after setting the competition alight in 2024, playing some seriously impressive knocks. Was able to, get a big purchase price at the mega auction, but didn't perform to expectation, and he's been thrown back in the pool. Fully expecting someone to pick up Jake Fraser McGurk, even if it's around that 3 or 4 crore price tag. I certainly think he can be very destructive at the top of the order. And, it's pretty hard to have a worse season than what McGurk did last year. So I'm bouncing him to bounce back at some point, the South Australian. They've traded in Nitish Rana from the Rajasthan Royals as well for about 4.2 crore. I really like this move. It's very solid. Shores up the middle order batting. He'll probably bat somewhere around number 4 or number 5. I think the real question for the Delhi Capitals is who is going to open the batting. I fully expect KL Rahul to make his way back up to the top of the order, and I'm surprised he didn't bat as high as he has previously for Lucknow and Punjab, and we've seen that at his best, he's certainly one of the most destructive openers in the IPL. So, Delhi's a pretty solid team on paper. T. Natarajan was probably the surprise retention, but once again, getting high quality Indian fast bowlers is going to be really tricky, as most of them have been retained by their franchises. So if I move into the Gujarat Titans, they've decided to trade Rutherford to the Mumbai Indians. Other releases, Dustin Charnaka, Gerald Coetzee, but most of their squad's intact. I really like what they've done. I think they're one of the favourites for this year's tournament. Obviously, high quality bowling attack, Mohammad Siraj, Kagiso Rabada, the captain Rashid Khan. So I really like what they've done. Really good batting unit with Glenn Phillips, Joss Butler at the top of the order. So I can't really argue with what they've done. Washington Sundar is going to play a massive role for them, and I like what he's been able to do in the Indian national T20 side. Shubman Gill, obviously a fantastic player as well. Sorry, I said Rashid Khan was the captain. Shubman Gill is the captain of the Gujarat Titans, and Tawatia in the middle order. He's been pretty solid since he's come across from the Rajasthan Royals. So yeah, really like what Gujarat's done. They've got 13 crore to play with, so fully expecting them to get a couple of backup overseas options and then sort of do some talent scouting and see if they can find anyone interesting. KKR, this is the one that is probably the most surprising, and there's a couple of players who I think they might target. So they've released Andre Russell. He was at the price of 12 crore. I think that's a fair price for someone like Andre Russell. I think he obviously has not been as destructive with the bat in recent seasons, but he's been able to play a pretty handy role with the ball. Venkatesh Iyer was the big release as well. He fetched 23 crore last year. Whether they're looking to buy him back, but based on some of the other podcasts that I've watched, KKR doesn't tend to release players and then buy them back immediately afterwards. So for Venkatesh Iyer, it was probably just a price too much to keep that type of player, and whether they're looking to target a couple of middle order batsmen in the auction. And the big one that supposedly they're going to go after will be Cameron Green. We saw Cameron Green be able to fetch around the 3 million Australian dollars mark when he first entered the IPL auction after the 2023 World Cup. So, coming in for that 2024 season, was able to set that tournament alight. The 2022 series where he went to India, he opened the batting and he was really destructive there. So we saw he was able to fetch 3 million. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes higher than that, but I still do think that's a lot of money to pay someone like Cameron Green, who is not a proven performer in T20s. He's a solid player. Obviously, Australia rate him very highly. But once again, also very injury prone at the same time. So I think it's buyer beware with Cameron Green, but I would expect KKR to go after someone like him. Quinton de Kock was the other player that I thought was a bit strange to release. So I think they'll be looking for a keeper. And once again, I think they'll be looking for a captain. I think Ajinkya Rahane did a solid job as captain last year, but I do think that they probably need a more experienced captaincy option. Ajinkya Rahane is probably not always going to be a guarantee to play. He's a solid depth player in the squad, but I think he's personally had his time. And potentially another captaincy option would be someone I would be looking for if I was the Kolkata Knight Riders. If I move to the Lucknow Super Giants, the release of Ravi Bishnoi, I think, was a potentially strange choice. I know he didn't have the greatest of years last year, but Indian spinners are going to be hard to come by. Obviously, ones that are as experienced as Ravi Bishnoi. Released Akash Deep as well, so I'm not sure whether there's an injury concern there, but I think him going back into the auction, he's one of the more high-profile Indian fast bowlers, so I think he will still fetch a pretty heavy price tag at the auction. And Shamar Joseph was another one that was released. I think there will be a bit of a shuffle around of players of the overseas fast bowlers. I think there'll be a shuffling of overseas fast bowlers throughout the teams. They've traded in Tendulkar from Mumbai Indians, and they've traded in Muhammad Shami from the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Hyderabad wanted to probably free up a little bit of cash. For 10 crore, I think it's a pretty solid buy. It's just a matter of his body, him being fit. I'm not sure what his fitness levels are like at the moment. Obviously, hasn't been in much talk of being involved with the Test squads for their tour series against South Africa that's going on at the moment. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how he's going with his injury recovery, because I know he was due to play some. There was hope that he was going to play some test matches in England, but that obviously didn't transpire over the course of that series. If I'm moving on to the Mumbai Indians, they've got the smallest purse left, which is 2.75 crore. So I certainly think they'll be looking to go for a couple of, one crore overseas fast bowlers to just have some depth for Trent Boult. Surprised they released Reece Topley. I thought whenever he has played IPL, I think he's been pretty solid, and only at 75 lakhs. I think it was probably worth him retaining, but whether they've got someone in mind who hasn't been available previously. They've traded in Shardul Thakur from the Lucknow Super Giants for 2 crore. I think that's a pretty solid purchase. I think Thakur is more of a batting all-rounder these days than a bowling all-rounder. We have seen in the past when he has bowled, he's leaked a fair few runs. So, he's just one of those players. If he's in form and he's on song, then he's going to be a very destructive player. But we have seen when he isn't in form that he can be very costly to a side. And I probably expect him to maybe be more of a depth player rather than a first choice 11 player. If I'm moving on now to the Punjab Kings, as we talked about at the top of the show, they released Glenn Maxwell. They've released Josh Inglis as well. Now, the reason that they've released Josh Inglis is due to part availability. I believe he is getting married around that April time, so he'd only be available for half the tournament. So Ricky Ponting and the coaching staff have decided to release him. Doesn't stop another team from being able to pick him up, but they obviously just need to be aware of his availability. I thought he was pretty solid when he played for Punjab last year, batting at number 3, wicket keeping as well. Very highly rated in the Australian setup in both ODIs and T20s. They were super keen to get him in the Test side when there was an opportunity in Sri Lanka, and was able to hit a 100 on debut. So, yeah, obviously Australia really like him. Ricky Ponting really likes him, but unfortunately with his availability, that doesn't cut it for the Punjab Kings on this occasion. So obviously Punjab did a lot right last year. They've got a big core of their squad already intact. They've got 11.5 crore to play with, so you'd think they might go for one big player and then be able to try and pick up a few younger up and coming players through sort of scouting. But yeah, Ricky Ponting did a lot right last year, was able to completely shake up the Punjab lineup, and they were able to get some really good results. If I look at the Rajasthan Royals, it's very interesting what they've done. I personally would have kept Sanju Samson. I wouldn't have let him go, but whether that's a potential opportunity to be the face of the CSK franchise once MS Dhoni retires. Jadeja coming in, Donovan Ferreira coming in, Sam Curran coming in, three very solid players. Nitish Rana going out along with Sanju Samson. Other releases would be both of the Sri Lankan spinners in Tikshana and Waindu Hasaranga. I would have expected them to keep one and then release the other. So I certainly think that they need a local Indian spinner to accompany Jadeja. So I fully expect them to be in the race to bid for Ravi Bishnoi come the auction. So I've really rated what Rajasthan have done over the last sort of 4 to 5 years. I think they missed their chance to win the title in 2022 or 2023. I can't exactly remember after they nailed their big auction. So I think that Rajasthan's got a solid squad, just a few bits and pieces around the mark to plug a few holes, and I certainly think they're in finals contention. The reigning champions, Royal Challengers Bangalore, they've released Liam Livingston Ngidi from South Africa and Mayank Agarwal. Livingston, probably just a cost thing, seeing what they can do. They'll have 16.4 crore to play with at the auction. I expect a few teams to be in the market for Mayank Agarwal. I remember him watching the IPL 2020, 2021 during those COVID years, and I remember him and KL Rahul being very destructive at the top of the order together for Punjab. So whether another team, even like a Delhi, could go after Mayank Agarwal, someone to bat up the top of the order. And I think Mayank Agarwal would come pretty cheaply, max 2 crore. Seems to have fallen off the cliff in Indian cricket, and I'm not sure why. He's a very, very solid player, and I think he has a lot to offer an IPL franchise at the top of the order. So they've been able to keep it, obviously a big core of their squad. They nailed their mega auction, and all their good players were playing well at the right time of the tournament. Opening combination of Kohli and Salt's very solid. Padikal, Patidar, Tim David, and then a solid bowling attack with the likes of Josh Hazlewood in there as well. They'll be up there once again. If I'm looking at the Sunrisers Hyderabad, they traded out Muhammad Shami to the Lucknow Super Giants. They released Rahul Chahar and Adam Zampa. They've kept, obviously, most of their squad intact. They did that around their mega auction when they retained Klaasen, Head, Abhishek Sharma, Pat Cummins. Obviously, some solid buys at the auction last year with Harshit Patel, Ishan Kishan, Young Cat, Nitish Kumar Reddy was retained as well. So yeah, really, really like what they've done. All the teams are pretty solid on paper. It's just a matter of which ones are going to click at that right time of the year, I guess. If I'm looking at players who will be of interest going into the auction, if I'm looking at the local Indian players first, Ravi Bishnoi, I think will fetch a high price. I think he'll be around that probably 8 to 11 crore mark. I think high quality Indian spinners are going to be sought after. He does have a proven IPL track record. Obviously, poor year last year, but I think he'll bounce back. Akashdeep, I think, will be around that 8 to 11 crore mark as well. Indian fast bowlers are going to be hard to come by. Akashdeep is a high quality fast bowler. Rahul Chahar, I don't expect to go for a massive price, but I do expect a couple of teams to be in the mix, whether that's for someone looking to have some extra depth in their squad or a team that needs an Indian spinner in their lineup out of necessity. I expect probably 2 to 3 teams to be in the market for him. As I just talked about Mike Agarwal, I expect two teams to be in the market for him and probably a maximum price of 2.5, maybe 3 crore at the most. I think and Prithvi Shaw, I do think there is a team that takes a punt on him. Apparently, he has been training extremely hard. He's lost a bit of weight as well. So I think some of his fitness standards were brought into question and his professionalism at some of the IPL teams. I do think if a team is genuinely looking for an opener and could get him for 50 lakhs, 75 lakhs, I think it's certainly a risk worth taking because we know that he's best. He's a high quality international cricketer. Obviously, we haven't seen that a lot so far throughout his career, but he definitely has time because he is young enough to make a mark in international cricket, but obviously in IPL cricket as well. We've seen what he's done for Delhi in the past. As I talked about, I think Cameron Green will fetch a very heavy price. I think it's probably somewhere around that 13 to 15 crore mark. Overseas all-rounders are very hard to come by. Cameron Green is more of a batting all-rounder than a bowling all-rounder, so teams obviously need to take that into consideration when looking to bid for him. But yeah, I fully expect CSK, KKR to be in the market for him. Glenn Maxwell is someone I do expect to be bought at the auctions, but it's just a question of how much a team's willing to pay for him. I'm looking at someone like a KKR once again or a Chennai Super Kings to be in the market for a player such as Glenn Maxwell. It depends on who comes first in the auction set with the likes of Maxwell and Green in that all-rounder category. I'm sure there are some others that I'm forgetting of at the moment. Johnny Bairstow, he did come in and play for Mumbai last year, and I expect that if he was to be picked up, it'd be for a very cheap buy, and we saw what he was able to do at the top of the order in partnership with Rohit Sharma. So he is someone that could potentially take the gloves as well. Obviously, a very handy skill to have. The likes of Shea Hope as well, I don't expect to get a big price, but I think a complementary and depth player in a squad. Daryl Mitchell is playing really well for New Zealand at the moment. I remember a couple of years ago he was able to fetch a 14 crore price tag, and that was probably just a bit too much for his ability. But if you could pick him up for that 4 to 5 crore, I think he's certainly worth having in a squad. Jamie Smith from England, the keeper, if he has a big Ashes series, then I think that's going to go a long way to him getting involved with the IPL. Teams looking for a wicketkeeper, once again, I think Kolkata is definitely in that mix. If I'm just looking at other teams that potentially might need a wicketkeeper, the Rajasthan Royals might be there as well. Sorry, if I'm just looking at my notes, most other teams are pretty solid for a wicketkeeper. Potentially Mumbai if they wanted an overseas keeper, but once again, with their purse of 2.75 crore, pretty much all of that would be. You'd have to rely on Jamie Smith getting unders what he's probably worth. So that's my quick preview of the IPL auction for 2026. Big couple of days with all of the retentions and releases from the 10 IPL teams. So let me know, was there a player that you think was lucky to be retained by their franchise? Do you think there is a player that was harshly treated by their franchise? And who do you think your team is looking to pick up in the auction? So thanks very much for watching this episode of In the Cordon. We'll be looking to bring more IPL content to the podcast. We know it's such a big tournament, and Lots of our viewers are from India and love the IPL. So once again, thanks very much for watching. Make sure you follow us on social media at In the Cordon and follow us wherever you get your podcast. So take care, everyone. Cheers.